writing that grant for us now. And it's due on May 15th. It'll come before a finance committee, this next finance committee for approval. We're hoping for approval. It's a 90-10 grant. So the federal government will pay 90% of the cost. He's responsible for 10%. Like I said, we're in the process of writing that. Every year, Assistance Firefighter Grant, government does put out an AFG grant, and we've written for that every year since I've been here, and we have received several items from this grant, and like I said, it's a 90-10 grant, so we've been very fortunate through this grant to get different types of equipment for our department. We hope to remodel the health and wellness area of Station 3. We had some flooding at Station 3 in the basement a couple years ago when we had all that snow. And with that, the carpet kind of got really rancid, and the walls are really bad down there. So we're hoping to spend some money in a remodel in the basement there. We're continuing our efforts to attain accreditation status. There's about 250 fire departments throughout the country that are accredited agencies, and we're hoping at some point in time we're going to be able to become one of those. Now we're working on, since Steve Briggs has gotten here, we're looking at screening compliance with NFPA and OSHA standards, which is long overdue. He's been doing a great job of getting into that particular platform, so it's been a lengthy, time-consuming process. So those are some of our current projects. I don't want to take any questions that you might have.
Go ahead, Lou.
When is the new station scheduled to open? It seems I've been driving by there forever and waiting for it to open.
Yeah. You know, it was supposed to be open the beginning of April because we had some complications with pouring concrete in the fall because it got cold so quickly. And it was cost prohibitive to actually pour concrete in the fall with those cold temperatures, and the potential of it not setting correctly, so faulting and things like that would occur. So we decided to wait till the spring. So the concrete is just being poured now, and the pavement will be put in after that. So we're looking at the beginning of June now.
Anything else? Okay. Ms. Polly, are you ready? If not, we'll go with Greg.
Yes,
Okay. No. She said,
can you hear me?
yep, go ahead.
Okay, good. So yep, I sent my PowerPoint presentation over as well. I can't really see the screen very well in the council chambers to know what you're looking at, but going right from the beginning, just a quick overview of my department. And if I'm the last one, I'll try to make this brief. But I'm a lot like Jerry, a little bit unique in that I'm a city-county government department. I work technically for the county, which where I guess our paychecks come from, but we work for both entities. It's been an agreement that's been happening since 1924, so it's worked pretty well over the last almost 100 years. If you go down to our mission statement slide, our department mission, we updated that last year, but we do follow the county's mission and vision in making Marathon County a preferred place to live, work, and visit, do business, with being the healthiest, safest, and most prosperous county in the state. Our specific department statement is to adaptively manage our park and forest lands for natural resource sustainability while providing healthy recreational opportunities and unique experience, making our county a desirable place to live, work, and play. Pretty long, but we wanted to cover all of the areas that we cover. So on the next slide, just talks about how our park system works. We're two separate park systems, but we've been a joint department, like I said, since 1924. We also have the county forest system in our department. So under, with Marathon County, we have 17 county parks. We have 10 county forest units, and we have the specialized facilities within the county, such as our ice arenas, the shooting range. I should have updated this. It's the Marathon County Sports Complex now. We'll be looking for a new sponsor here this next year. We have Sunnyvale Softball Complex, and then Marathon Park is probably the biggest unique park in our relationship with the Fair Board for the fair. We also do recreation programs on both the city and the county side. For the city, we manage the 33 neighborhood parks that we have. We have an urban forestry program, so the city forester is under our department as well. We have 25,000 street trees that we manage. And then we have the specialized facilities such as Sylvan Hill Athletic Park. It's a unique relationship that we have with the Woodchucks. Our 3 outdoor aquatic centers, the whitewater rafting park, skate park 400 block, and the boat launches. Should I add River Life there? It's a unique facility that we have as well in our relationship with a private organization of bricks. So going down to the next slide, these are just an overview of the county parks and the forest units and how they're spread out throughout the county. So we really do cover almost all of Marathon County. And then the next slide is the city parks. And the area in the middle isn't zoomed in. There's a separate insert that shows the downtown city parks. But we do pretty much cover, a lot of the city too, but there are gaps that we look at as development comes forward. We'll be looking at what those gaps are and deciding whether or not we need a park there or if it's close enough to a county facility with the amenities that a neighborhood would need. So going to the next slide, as we build the Wausau Marathon County Park System, we look at what the goals are for us of the county and I believe of the city. I think it goes hand in hand. Our community needs, how we serve all populations, including the underserved populations of the community, trends and unique opportunities that we have. And we do a lot of partnerships. We could not do what we do without the partnerships that we have from private organization, private funders, Central Wisconsin Off-Road Cycling Coalition and what they do for our trail system, the Nordic Ski Club for what they do to our skiing facilities, the Whitewater Rafting Group for what they do to the rafting area, and I know I'm missing a few here, but we have tremendous partnerships with a lot of the organizations. I put on here our 2 guiding documents that we work pretty closely by is our comprehensive outdoor recreation plans. We currently have a city separate one and a Marathon County separate one. We just updated the county one. I do have a plan after 2021 when we're looking to update the city one. I would really like to look at combining these 2 into one comprehensive outdoor recreation plan for parks and recreation in the entire region. There will be specifics to the county and specifics to the city in it, but I think one document would be easier. And then we also have a 15-year forest comprehensive land use plan in how we manage our county forests, which have a whole different set of laws to them. So going down to the next slide, our county park budget, or our Wausau and county park budget and capital improvements for 2020 is, our department has about a $5.9 million budget that's split pretty evenly between the city and the county. Different years depend on what we're doing, but we do track all of our time specifically to the projects and the parks that we are in. Okay, you're all back on my screen, so I don't know if I lost you for a second or not. But and then for our county projects, this is just a short list, but we are also doing playground replacement area, road repairs. We're replacing dasher boards in our ice arena and different mechanical systems there. So we have a lot of aging facilities in our entire county and city system that we are working to update and keep current and keep safe. And so far been had a very supportive on both the county and the city side in helping us get caught up in some of these areas. So the next slide, serving the county and the city, we serve the quality of life. Right now, I think it's more apparent than ever of the use of our parks. Even though our playgrounds are closed, we've had more use of all the city and the county parks than I think I've ever seen, and I've only been here 2 years, although I did grow up here. But even with our staff has seen, is people are out and about and excited about what we have, even though there's some restrictions about what we can offer. We play a big part in the tourism with the tournaments that we have and the facilities that we have. So I work closely with the chamber and the CVB on different things to try to promote our department and how we can help with the economic development of the area. And then we watch out for the natural resources as well. Next slide is just a really long list, but probably not all inclusive of all the activities that we can offer all year long. So we're not just a summer And the spring activity is we've got something I think for everybody all year. The final list is not something you'll be able to see, but I do have these available. It is on our website as well, of all of the city, county parks and the forests and what amenities we have in each of those parks. Going down to the last couple of slides are really about the benefits that we've had of parks. I just wanted to throw this in there is as I mentioned, we've got something for all people to do. And in our life report that the county does with the health department every year, in 2018, Wausau was ranked as the #1 small city and second best overall to bike in the county, according to People for Bikes, National Advocacy for Cycling Group. So I know our biking community, and as Christian mentioned, the Bike Ped Committee on the city side, we also have one on the county that really does a lot for this community and helps us increase and enhance those facilities as well. And then this is the 2017 numbers. I couldn't quite find 2018, but I'll keep looking and update that. Is that 80% of those respondents were satisfied with our parks and open spaces. Well, 66 were satisfied with the availability of a safe place to walk and bike. So we have some improvement there, but I think it's always also pretty high. And as we continue to work with the community and we have a lot of input in those outdoor recreation plans, I think that we can address some of those areas that we can. The next slide, this is the benefits of local parks. This is a national number informational chart that I got from the National Parks and Recreation Association that really says 85% of Americans consider high quality parks and recreational amenities as factors of places when they choose to live somewhere. So if we can keep up our facilities and keep them attractive, we can also help to attract that economic base and all of those jobs that we're trying to get into the community and try to keep people here. So that's how we're working to help with economic development. And then the last slide I have before questions is just the economic benefits of local parks that, there's the personal benefits, environmental benefits, social, economic, and then the benefits of where we have places that people can recreate. So 83% of Americans, according to the National Park and Rec Association, say that they personally benefit from the local parks. And I think now if we ask many of our community members during this time that have been in our parks, they might respond a little bit higher just because it's a place that's free to go, fresh air, even though there are social distancing requirements. It's a nice place to get out and clear your mind from being at home. So that's a brief overview. I'd be happy to, we do have in our department 44 full-time staff. We're housed at 2 different locations. Here, one at River Drive is our main office, and our operations practice out on Party Street by Marathon Park. The county is looking within the next 5 years to relocate us as one department with the highway department, but we would still stay within or close to the city limits, and that's a choice that the county made on the selection of a site based on our department, knowing that we have to serve the city as well, so we would be close within those boundaries. But I'd be happy to take anybody around to our parks. We try each year, and I don't know how this year will work with our restrictions on social distancing, but we try each year to do a parks tour where we can take a group around to see the parks and talk about what we're doing in each park, what our plans are, what's been done. And so we were able to do a couple on the county side last year. I would really like to do the city coming up and getting our city council. We'll get a bus, we'll get lunch, and we'll get out and maybe look at what we've got for parks and get ideas as well as how we can move forward. So with that, I'll take any questions.
I see none. Thank you.
Great.
Greg?
Good evening, everyone. Hang on just a second. I'm having video problems here. I seem to have lost my feed.
We can hear you, Greg. Can
Oh,
you
you
hear
can?
us?
Okay.
Yep, we can hear
I
you,
wasn't
so,
sure if you could hear me.
yep, go ahead.
I'm Greg Seibert. I'm the transit director for the city of Wausau. Metro Ride is the public transit service operated in the city. We are owned and operated, run as a city department. The city has owned us since 1972. We provide two separate services. One is our regular bus service. We run from 6:30 a.m. till 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. We have 7 regular routes that operate at 30-minute intervals. We also add 10 express routes, we call them, on school days. They're meant to handle the heavy passenger loads when school is in session. We run a weekly grocery shopping bus for seniors. It serves several senior housing locations throughout the city. We have a bus that operates between downtown and Northern Valley Industries in order to get disabled folks to a sheltered employment opportunity. And last but not least, we operate something called ADA Paratransit. It's a service that's designed to be separate but equal to our fixed route bus service. It's for people who, because of a disability, are unable to use our regular bus service because they can't get to or from a bus stop. It operates much like a taxi service where we pick you up at your origin and we take you to your destination. We have a fairly diverse revenue stream. Most of our expenses are covered by state and federal funding sources. Depending on the year, state and federal funds will cover between 55 and about 62% of our overall expenses. Passenger fares cover 11 to 12%, and then the remainder is paid by the city of Wausau. That's about 30%, depending on the year. In terms of who rides the bus, our largest fare category is students. About 43% of our overall riders are students. The next highest category, about 30%, are elderly and disabled folks. And then the next category would be adults at about 23% of the overall total. In terms of why people ride, we don't determine this on an ongoing basis, only when we survey. We surveyed last in the fall of 2018. The majority of our riders are going to and from school. The next highest category is 26%, which is work. The next highest category would be for shopping purposes, that's at 20%. So overall, the vast majority of our riders, nearly 80%, are preparing to participate in the economy or are currently participating in the economy through work or spending their dollars. In terms of the challenges we currently face, as I mentioned, outside funding, state and federal funding pays the bulk of our overall cost. State funds have been frozen for the better part of the last decade. And state-imposed levy limits and shrinking shared revenue dollars have made it difficult for the city to respond. And so we have adjusted in terms of how much we charge for the service. Our passenger fares have gone up, and also the level of service we provide. We've made a number of cuts. Saturday services, for instance, was eliminated. We shortened our Monday through Friday service day, and so on. So the end result of all of that is our services are less available, less affordable, and less useful for the folks who rely on our services. The other downside is that many employment opportunities now lie outside of our boundaries, and that's a real challenge for those who need to shop elsewhere or work elsewhere. In terms of return on your investment, there are a number of studies out there, but WSDOT has done one on their own. For every dollar invested in public transit, there's a $3 return. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Questions? I don't see any. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we have Ms. Jacobson.
Everybody's still awake?
Yeah.
Wow.
You'll wake us up, right?
It's the
I'll
most
try.
exciting part. I'll try. I'll give you a break. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ann Jacobson, the city attorney. I've been with the city for 22 years. It'll be on June 8th. I spent the first 10 years as the assistant city attorney, so I understand what that job entails as well, and then was appointed the city attorney in 2009. It's my honor to introduce you to the city attorney's office. We have 5 members, and we are located right next to the mayor's office between the mayor's suite and the HR suite. We actually have one of our attorneys, our newest addition, Nathan Miller, occupies the office in the mayor's suite. So we have 3 attorneys and a legal secretary and a legal assistant. Tara Alfonso has been with us 8 years, and Nathan Miller joined us last September 3rd, so 8 years and 8 months. Obviously, we're succession planning, if you will, for the eventual turnover of the staff in our office. We have one organizational client, and we provide in-house legal counsel to the city as a municipal corporation and advice to the members of the body that are acting on behalf of that corporation. We also provide advice to the Community Development Authority, Wausau Water Works, and the Wausau Area Transit System. Our job is really defined by statute. It says the attorney under 62.0912 shall conduct all the legal business in which the city is interested, shall, when requested by city officers, give written legal opinions which shall be filed with the clerk, shall draft ordinances, bonds, and other instruments as may be required, shall examine the tax and assessment rolls and other tax proceedings and advise proper city officers. And then it says the council may employ and compensate special counsel to assist in or take charge of any matter in which the city is interested. And we do employ outside counsel, and I will talk about them in just a little bit. We handle drafting, negotiating, and reviewing contracts to which the city is a party. We handle real estate transactional matters, land acquisitions and sales, annexations, vacations, condemnations, easements, and dedications of public right-of-way. We handle collections on behalf of the city, foreclosure and bankruptcy defense, personal property tax collection, and municipal forfeitures through orders to show cause in municipal court, and TRIPs, which is a mechanism by which we work with the finance department to intercept people's income tax refunds for payment of city forfeitures. We manage litigation at all levels in which the city may be involved in some manner. It could be in an administrative proceeding or at the Supreme Court level, the appellate court level, the circuit court level, or the municipal court level. We prosecute municipal code violations, which include all traffic matters, housing and fire code violations, by drafting long-form summons and complaints in your inspection matters that you've heard spoken about this evening. We work closely with the inspections department, prepare special inspection warrants and raise or repair orders. We draft and interpret ordinances, and actually we have, as one of our ordinances, we have to pass on the enforceability of ordinances before the council can adopt an ordinance or an ordinance change. I serve as the parliamentarian according to your council rules. I'm a member of the Board of Public Works by ordinance. I also advise the Board of Review every year that Rick spoke about. I am your representative to CIVMIC, which is City and Villages Mutual Insurance Company, which is the mutual insurance company the city belongs to that is made up of 49 different cities. Nathan Miller of our office is the new ADA coordinator with the departure of our past city clerk. We attend, staff, and advise all standing committee meetings. I regularly attend Finance, Economic Development, HR, Parks and Rec on occasion, Tara Alfonso staffs Public Health and Safety, and CISM. And Nathan goes to Airport, which is not a standing committee, but we regularly attend those meetings as well. And we're happy to attend any meetings as requested if we're shepherding a particular matter through a committee. We provide formal legal opinions and informal opinions. We conduct trainings, and we assist heavily with responses to open record requests and advise on open meeting requirements. I hope all of you received, should have been a file almost this thick when you were sworn in. So I didn't prepare any handouts for this evening or even a PowerPoint because I overloaded you, I'm sure, with information when you received that packet. But it's summarized at the beginning what I provided to you, and as you work through that and read it, you'll understand a lot of what I'm talking about tonight, about the city attorney's office, our legal review policy, our web page, our legal opinion request form, both hard copy and online, a copy of the most recent procurement policy, which I recommend you become familiar with, 20 basic parliamentary motions, some fundamentals about parliamentary procedure, and then a list of many, many resources. And tonight, much of what I'll be talking about will, under item 2 on the agenda, will highlight things taken from those resources and mainly from the Local Government Center and the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. So we didn't share with you a couple articles, and I just want to share a couple quick things with you from this one that appeared in the municipality in October of 2012. 10 tips using your municipal attorney more effectively, and I'm just going to read 3 tips if I may. The first one says, remember you and the municipal attorney are on the same team. Your municipal attorney should not be viewed as an obstructionist. It is the municipal attorney's job to protect the municipality by identifying potential legal problems and assist them so that they exercise their powers in a lawful manner. If you have specific goals, clearly communicate those goals to the attorney. It may be that the goal itself is unlawful. In that case, it is better to know in advance in order to protect the municipality from liability. However, most often the end goal is legitimate and there are a variety of ways to achieve the desired result. The means of achieving the goal are less important than reaching the desired result, but using the wrong means can have significant legal consequences. Number 2, remember who the client is. Municipal officials should bear in mind that the municipal attorney's client is the municipality acting through its governing body and not you individual officers or any employees. Because the municipality is the client, it is often unclear who can speak or act on behalf of the municipality, and it can be helpful for both the attorney and the officials if the governing body develops clear guidelines regarding who can contact the attorney and under what circumstances it is appropriate to do so. Individual officers and employees must understand that they themselves are not the attorney's client and that the attorney may not be able to keep everything told to the attorney confidential. Moreover, officials and employees should not attempt or expect to persuade the attorney to act in a manner that is inconsistent with the attorney's obligation to its client, the municipality. And finally, number 10, remember that lawyers are legal advisors, not policy makers. The municipal attorney is a legal advisor, and it's the attorney's job to help the municipality see what the options are and what the benefits and disadvantages might be of proceeding in a given way. The attorney should not be pulled into politics and should be allowed to maintain independence and objectivity so that the attorney could give the correct legal answer rather than the desired legal answer. Once the legislative body has decided which way they wish to proceed, the attorney can then implement their plan and make sure the municipality carries out its powers lawfully. So I too would invite you to visit our office. It's pretty boring. I mean, there's a lot of books there and dusty books and so forth, but you're more than welcome. I've got an appointment with Sarah tomorrow. If you have any questions, just call me. I can provide you any information. If I don't have it or I can't find it, I'll track it down for you and get it to you. I will tell you when I'm keeping what you're telling me confidential and when I'm not. And I will try to also inform you when I send emails out whether or not the information I'm providing you is confidential or it's not. Sometimes memos containing strategy are confidential, but most things are open records. So your emails, for instance, are open records that leave and come into your city email address and so forth. So I think I'll stop there, and if people want to take a break before you call for the next item, that's fine with me, Becky, but I'll finish there with any questions you have about the city attorney's office or the function of our office.
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay, what would people like? The next session is just the legal obligations is specifics. You want to just trudge through?
Or leave.
It sounds like we'll just go on in and get this. Yeah, thanks.
All right. And I see it is 20 to 8. I'll try to keep it to like 15 minutes. I'll just hit the highlights. So I'm taking this from, there's FAQs on the League of Wisconsin Municipalities pages that are real fun and real easy to read, so I'm just going to hit the highlights. First of all, what is the purpose of a COW or a committee of the whole? And why is the committee of the whole used? The committee is used to allow a more free-ranging discussion than allowed under the rules of the governing body. When it's used, the body refers new matters to the committee, and sitting as a committee of the whole, then the governing body can meet to consider these matters at a regularly designated time and place, sufficiently in advance of the time of the regular council meeting. The public may be heard, advice of boards and commissions may be sought, and advice of employees and other officers may be secured. Matters referred to the committee of the whole may be debated pursuant to its rules and a recommendation made to the governing body. So we don't use them on a regular basis, but they certainly do have a purpose, and this is one good reason we use committees of the whole. Further trainings or retreats will be called as committee meetings of the whole. And when we have a topic that's of really hot interest, we may bring it to this body to discuss and vet first, because you are the membership of the council, but in this setting, you're acting in a committee setting. I'm going to talk first briefly about open meetings law and then just a little bit on public records. So I think it's really important to start this discussion by reminding you, as every court decision would, that section 19.811 says, in recognition of the fact that a representative government of the American type is dependent upon an informed electorate, it is declared to be the policy of this state that the public is entitled to the fullest and most complete information regarding the affairs of government as is compatible with the conduct of governmental business. These laws are to be liberally construed to promote open government, and that's how courts will interpret them. And so you've heard that before, sunshine laws, open government. You hear that talked about when we want to go into closed session, and I'm not going to touch on that topic this evening, but it's really important to start with the thought that everything should be conducted as openly as possible so that the public can view the conduct of the government's business. It enables the public to have the fullest and most complete information regarding the affairs of government, and like I said, they'll be liberally construed. So what is a meeting? A meeting is a gathering of members of a body for the purpose of exercising its responsibilities. And a meeting, under the definition of the law, occurs when both the purpose test and the numbers test are met. And those were developed under a case called the Showers case, or the Showers test it's called. So there's two tests that came out from that case. The numbers test is defined as enough members of a body present to determine the outcome of an action, and the purpose test is discussion, information gathering, or decision-making on a matter within jurisdiction of the body. So by statute, if 1/2 of the members of any body are present, there's a presumption that a meeting has occurred under the open meeting law, unless it can be proven that the purpose test has not been met. So with your standing committees that have 5 members on them, if any 3 of any standing committee are together anywhere, it's presumed that a meeting is occurring. And that's why you'll often see going forward that when you're in social gatherings, or we take a tour of a plant, or we meet on the 400 block, or wherever you meet, even if it's for a social gathering, if it's planned and it's not a chance meeting, you will see it agendized as a potential quorum, because it's possible, you're presumed to be having a meeting, and it's possible that you may be exchanging information or discussing business. A lesser number of members may meet the numbers test if they can affect the outcome. And by that I mean they can affect the outcome either negatively or positively. So they could affect it affirmatively to pass an action, or if there are enough people that agree not to pass an action, they can affect the action negatively, which is referred to as a negative quorum. So you must be aware of that numbers requirement. So members must convene for there to be a meeting. A meeting isn't just limited to face-to-face gatherings, so that can occur over any type of social media. Meetings can include situations where members are able to effectively communicate with one another. With written paper correspondence, circulation of a paper or a hard copy memorandum among the members of a body could be determined to be a meeting. Exchanges and responses, if any, are usually spread over a considerable period of time with little or no conversation. That situation would not generally constitute a convening of the membership, or a one-way flow of information would not constitute a meeting of the members or a convening of the members. So typically with email, you'll see someone sends something out to everybody on the council, and if you all start hitting reply all, and now we're having a discussion by email, that's prohibited by the open meeting law. And so you'll see if I send something out and I'm surveying you, I'll say, just reply to me directly, and I'll collect the responses or whatever. And you'll see that from other people too. But it's so easy to fall into that trap when you're sitting at home at your computer and you just start emailing people. That applies also to telephone conference calls, video conferences. While they're not face-to-face, consider it the same thing as a face-to-face in-person conversation, because participants are able to effectively communicate and exercise authority vested in the body. So remember, there's a convening of the members, no matter what the situation is, if it meets the purpose and the numbers test. So it could be potentially 3 people, and if they are meeting for the purpose of discussing business, it's always going to be a unique fact-by-fact, case-by-case determination by the court whether or not they violated the law, but that's the best advice that I can give you. So communicating through blogging, email, instant messaging, or any other social media platform, like I said, constitutes a convening of the members if you meet the numbers and purpose test. Presently, there are no court decisions on this issue, so consider whether your electronic communications imitate in-person discussions. And by that, I mean the court will look at the rapid back and forth exchange of viewpoints, how many members were involved in the discussion, how close together the communications occurred, the frequency, the length of the communications, the number and identity of the participants, and the extent of the conversation-like interactions that are contained in those messages. So again, forward and reply all deprive a sender of control over the number and identity of recipients with access to that message. So please be very careful about that. Reduce the risk of inadvertent open meetings, legal violations in your electronic communications, like I said, by using them to transmit information one way. Incorporating the reply only to one person and not reply all. If you're a recipient, be conscious of and refrain from forwarding messages around then to other members of the body, and be conscious of replies to and refrain from replies to groups of recipients that include members of this body or any of the standing committees. I think I'm going to skip, in the interests of time overlapping in multiple meetings. Sometimes that happens when we have a number of people, like a lot of times a lot of the council will end up showing up to all the finance committee meetings, and you'll have various quorums of other bodies attending other bodies' meetings just to gather information or to observe or whatever the reason is. So 2 separate meetings occur, but public notice has to be given for any potential quorum that's occurring. A single notice can be used, but it must clearly indicate that it's either a joint meeting, and we've held joint meetings of standing committees, must give the name of each body involved, and properly publish the notice. So a court can void, here's the downside to committing an open meeting violation. A court can void the decision made at an illegal meeting if the public interest in enforcing the law outweighs the public interest in sustaining the decision. And a member can be fined, it's technically not a fine, it's a civil forfeiture, but you can be fined up to between $25 and $300 per violation, and that's non-reimbursable by the city. Attorney's fees may or may not be reimbursable, but you're also facing a loss of public trust and potentially personal embarrassment. So if you have any questions at all about anything you see going on, or you're considering engaging in some activity and you want to make sure it's okay, just contact me ahead of time. I'll give you a quick advisory opinion. I put a fact sheet in your folder also on electronic meetings. I think that's worthy of reading, but I'm not going to go over that tonight. It goes through a lot of the things we've already experienced with remote meetings. Not being able to see everything going on in the room, not being able to assess the credibility or the body language or the facial expressions of the people that you're interacting with, not being able to see handouts or share presentations. They don't recommend, the DOJ does not recommend remote meetings for public hearings, for public input, and when you're using complex charts, graphs, PowerPoints, because it's very difficult to transmit those. Just a brief word on public participation in local government body meetings. The Wisconsin Open Meetings Law doesn't require public comment, but it does allow a body to provide for a period of public comment during their meeting, but it has to be noticed, and we do place that on our council agendas. Leslie does, it says public comment. We do that at both the beginning of the meeting for items that appear on the agenda, as well as anything they'd like to discuss, because we felt that that was more constitutional. We had some issues with that. Likewise, at the conclusion of the meeting, people can appear to give public comment on any item that they wish. So there's two opportunities at every council meeting. Right now, at your committee meetings, that's been rather inconsistent across the board as to which committees allow it and which don't, and how lenient they are. At the council, according to your rules, it's 3 minutes limited to each citizen to make comment, but again, that's really up to the chairs now of your standing committees. All of these things ride on the chair. It's up to you to know how to, you will bear the burden for any open meeting law violation, because you are, whether a staff member is helping you put together the agenda items or the packet, the chair is signing the agenda, and they are responsible for the sufficiency of those agenda items and the notice, everything else that goes with it. The chair is going to be responsible for. So it's really up to them whether they want to recognize people during their committee meetings to interrupt the meeting or ask questions. Totally up to the chair. I would recommend, though, that you not engage in debate with private citizens, hear their comments, allow public participation, but I advise that you not start trying to answer their questions or conduct a town hall session, because it's going to interrupt your business of your meetings. It makes it a little difficult.
I just have one question.
Yes, go right ahead.
So when you have public comment, is it even more so just not allowed to have that interaction? Like parliamentary procedure kind of prohibits some of that interaction when you have a public comment, especially something that's maybe not on the agenda?
Well, that's the danger, because they make a comment and then you want to be helpful, and so you start trying to answer their question, and then somebody else turns their light on and they want to start talking about it. Now they're debating it and it's not agendized. The public would not have known that you were going to engage in that discussion, and who knows where it goes if it keeps going. That's a potential violation of the open meeting law.
Thank you.
So it's not that you can't talk to that citizen after the meeting and answer their questions or whatever, but it's not a good idea to get engaged during a meeting. What action can a governmental body take against a member who discloses confidential information obtained during a closed session? This is a common question I get with every new council. If a member discloses confidential information obtained during a closed session, it is not a violation of the open meetings law. However, such behavior is understandably a matter of concern for bodies, and bodies can prohibit and establish consequences for such behavior. So the statutes allow the council to conduct its own business and its own governance by its council rules. Thus, the creation of the Rules Review Committee as a living document so that you can all regularly review those and propose amendments to them. We have surveyed many communities in the process of looking at these over the years. Some fine people for missing meetings. Some cities do all kinds of things and impose all kinds of penalties for committing various violations of their rules. I think our rules are very fair at this time. Some municipalities actually have ordinances which prohibit disclosure of confidential information. Then such penalties might include a forfeiture. Otherwise, public censure is really the only remedy available if somebody violates that. Where such behavior is clearly prohibited, other potential consequences such as criminal prosecution for misconduct in public office may be warranted. Can a member of a governmental body, as a member of the public, bring up items not specifically designated on the agenda under the period noticed public comment under the open meeting law? No. And I had that question come up, and I'm not sure I answered it that way this past week. But Section 19.842 provides a limited exception to the general notice requirements of the open meetings law, which allows members of the public to bring up items not specifically on the agenda during a period of noticed public comment. It is intended to allow local governments to be responsive to their constituents and allow the body to receive information from members of the public. However, it was not intended to allow members of the governing body to bring up items for discussion outside of those items that were placed on the agenda and noticed to the public. So, given that bodies have regular access and ready access to these agendas, use by members of that exception to discuss unnoticed matters will be seen as an impermissible attempt to circumvent the open meeting law. Does the public have a right to speak at a meeting of a governmental body? No. Although Wisconsin's law requires that the public be allowed to attend an open meeting, the public actually has no right to address a governmental body unless there's a public hearing that's specifically required by state statute. But it's not uncommon, as we've talked about earlier, to notice periods of public comment, and we do that. Another question I often get is who controls the agenda of a governing body meeting, such as the council agenda? And there's no black and white answer to that because agendas are not required by state law, but by customer rule, we use those because it's an easy way to notice what we're going to talk about to comply with the open meetings requirements. State law does not specifically vest agenda control in city councils. This meeting rule authority includes the power to develop and enact agenda rules, however, and mayors are also not vested with any agenda control power. So we may run into a few situations along the road, I don't know, where we're debating what can go on or off. I'm probably going to end up advising or recommending that if the majority of the body wants an item on the agenda, it will be placed on the agenda. Yes,
I do have
Mayor.
a question. We could, in fact, have a council rule that maybe would govern our agendas and that could maybe clarify if we felt like it. Just
Absolutely.
throwing
That
it
could-
out there.
Yep, that could be an idea to give to the Rules Review Committee. There's a new open meetings law that became effective March 4th about public notice. I'm sure Leslie's probably aware of that. I just wanted to make you aware that I know about it too. Notice of meetings can be provided in one of three ways, either by posting a notice in at least 3 public places, posting in one public place and placing it electronically on the city's website, or by paid publication in a print news medium. And we'll be following that with all of our Board of Review notices. Briefly, on the Wisconsin Records Law, that's at 19.31. The Open Meetings Law is at 19.85 in the statutes. You need to be aware that there's a definition in the statute of what a record is and what a record isn't. Very typically, like I said, any of your communications about government business, whether they're on a private device or a city-owned device or using a city email account or a private Facebook account, may very well be subject to disclosure, depending on the nature of the communication. And that's what makes responding to open record requests so complicated, because you have to first gather what you believe are records responsive to the request, and then go through them to see if there are any specifically exempted reasons for non-disclosure, like personally identifying information or law enforcement records or personnel records or HIPAA protected information, things of that nature. So the important thing for you to know is that a record includes anything written, drawn, printed, spoken, visual, electromagnetic, or electronically generated or stored data, includes handwritten, typed, printed pages, maps, charts, photographs, films, recordings, tapes, discs, and any other medium upon which electronically stored data is recorded. Very broad description. A website maintained by a public official about government business is also a public record, and access cannot be restricted to it. Records also include emails and other correspondence sent to an elected official. So if you are using your city-assigned email addresses, know that our IT department is backing those up every night, and they will keep them for 7 years. Whether you press delete or not, we can find them, and we will find them when we conduct a search with IT at the requester's expense to locate your emails in response to an open record request. You are an elected official, so you are an authority. You do meet that definition. You are charged with managing and maintaining your records. If they are not on the city server, you cannot destroy them. Once an open record request is made, that's criminal. If you destroy records or tamper with them, tampering with them anytime, but destroying them when an open record request has been made. So you have to keep those for 7 years and find a way to back them up. Tony mentioned that she's the social media coordinator. We do have a vendor that we hired recently too, also to back up our city Facebook pages and things of that nature. Each of you are the legal custodians of your own records. The chairpersons of the committees are the legal custodians of the committee's records. And just be really careful what you write. When you're sitting at your computer, my mother always taught me, don't do anything you don't want to see described in the headlines of the newspaper tomorrow. And that's the advice I give all of you when you're sitting in your pajamas at your computer at home at 2 in the morning and you're emailing another council member or whatever. Just think about, well, do I care if this ends up on a newspaper headline, or will I be embarrassed if this shows up there? And that should be a good guide for you to help you think about that as you're communicating on various social media platforms and through email. So with that, I will finish. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to reiterate that we have had, and I think Ann can tell you, we have had requests on social media messages, IMs, instant messages. We have had open record requests for members of this body. So it happens. It happens.
And private Facebook pages.
Yeah, these are private
So-
Facebook pages, and you're instant messaging another member or whatever, or they think you are, that there have been, and it has been recent. And so I just want to let everybody know this isn't something that could happen. It has happened.
Actually, I had it in here and I skipped through a bunch of things, but the city of Madison actually has an ordinance that prohibits you from instant messaging during meetings and imposes a big fine or a
Right.
penalty for being caught doing that. Because again, you're doing that outside of the eyes of the public who should be able to see you conducting your business. And so you can't be having discussions, and various cities have had real issues with that, with the advent of all this technology
Right.
of members emailing each other, texting, instant messaging, and that can definitely also be a problem.
Right.
So
We
are
have
there any?
two questions.
Sure, go ahead.
We'll go with Lisa first and then Pat.
Okay, thanks, Becky. One thing I want Ann to talk about specifically, and I ask her to talk about this every time we have one of these, is I would like her to talk specifically about walking forums and what they are and why they're wrong. And I ask that because in 2008, when I was first elected, there was a very obvious walking forum mechanism that was in play on that particular council. And what we had happening at the time was we had a private citizen, and that private citizen was not elected, but that citizen would engage in multiple meetings, either as a group or individually, with a number of council members, with the specific intent of reviewing either committee or council agendas and then influencing the decisions of those members. And then when those members would report to the council meeting, their minds were made up and items would either pass or fail as a result of that maneuver. And that was, it was a source of continuous division in that 2008 council. And I created a couple of very obvious voting blocks, which was also a dysfunctional part of our local government then. And you know, I know that out in the community, there are citizens who would still do those things. And I want us to be on the lookout for that. So, you know, I want Ann to be clear with us about what a walking quorum is. Rhinelander got themselves in trouble with that last year, communicating amongst themselves and strategizing behind the backs of the other members, and we can't do it. So Ann, could you talk about that?
Yeah, and I think I covered that a little bit when I talked about what is a meeting. And clearly with 5 new members, nobody expects that you're not going to ask questions and talk to your colleagues about a matter or an issue. You know, what do you know about this issue? Nobody's telling you that you can't do that. But you don't want to start enough side discussions, enough to influence a vote that involve a quorum of any body that could affect affirmatively or negatively, because you're going to create a block and block passage of a measure because they can't get enough votes to reach a majority. So by any communication in hard copy or by phone or by email or however, you could get yourself into trouble potentially by creating a walking quorum of people through a series of communications, whether or not they're face-to-face.
And whether or not they're in a group setting or one at a time.
Right, yeah, so a series of communications, like I said, a court would look at the length of it, the frequency, the duration, the number of participants, they're gonna look at all the communications, so really hard to know you're getting involved in one at first, and hard for the court maybe to divine intent at the end, but the records are gonna speak for themselves, whether or not you've created one and really conducted the business of the people outside of their ability to observe you. That's the violation.
The only thing I would offer is that back in 2008, when we were living through that, the citizen in question believed that he was saving the city from itself. And so creating that block and manipulating the opinions of those members, I think that his intentions were good, but his mechanisms were really subversive. And, you know, that really was, as a new member, that was something pretty mortifying for me to walk into, because at that time we had 12 members and I felt really caught in the middle. And, you know, I would have members on both sides calling me up and asking me which way I was going to go on issue A or issue B, because they wanted to know if they had the 7 votes or if the other side did.
It's all been decided behind the scenes, and you're merely, it literally is a mere formality to introduce an item, make a motion, and vote on it with no discussion. Then you're going to have the public start to question what's going on. So, good. Any other questions?
Pat?
That's what happened to us. We had an awful lot of 7 to 5s. And
Yeah.
it was really obvious to us and to the media. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Pat? Pat, we didn't hear you. Hang on. Can you unmute yourself?
I'm unmuted.
There you go. Okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Very good. Just like Ann to talk a little bit about how we should kind of think before we ask the city attorney's office for an opinion on something that we're curious about.
Thank you.
And I will tell the story on myself that I asked a question, I think it was in my first year in office, and I thought it would be something that the city attorney's office would have a quick grasp of, be able to, I don't know if she remembers this, but I thought this, shouldn't be this hard to figure this out, and it ended up, I believe it took at least 6 hours of somebody's time, and it earned me an admonition from the mayor's office, I believe, and other sources. Anyway, so now when I ask a question, I think about, whether I'm just, I'll make sure that it's not something I'm just curious about. And I recently asked, I was wanting to know something, and I let Ann know that if this was going to be something that would require more than 5 minutes of research, she should tell me and I would withdraw the request. But I would say if it's something really serious and you know that it's going to incur a lot of time and research, the part of the city attorney's office, maybe go in concert with the mayor's office, or maybe go to the mayor and say, Mayor, if you feel that this question is worthy of a significant amount of city attorney time, can we get an answer to this or something? But I stumbled into something I had no idea as a layman I would take that long, and I live to regret it.
Oh, thank you, Pat. You're very polite and sensitive and conscientious, and I don't recall the topic. So some people engage our office more frequently than other council members. Some I will not hear from their entire term, and others will email me every other day. And that's fine. That we're here to serve you. You're our client. But do understand, we don't manufacture this stuff in 5 minutes or overnight, depending on the question. And you may not know how long it takes, but we have to be very careful and thorough in our analysis, make sure we've gathered all the facts upon which we are going to apply the law, and then have a discussion, develop the legal analysis, and come up with a conclusion for you. We want to make sure we're right, because we're going on record. You're relying on us, and if you rely on us and we're wrong, you're going to be protected by the city. But it's an embarrassment and would be an embarrassment for our office. So we want to take pride in our work. We don't want to drag things out unnecessarily or take a lot of time, but it's really ill-advised to act hastily on a lot of things that, especially if you feel it's important enough to ask us, you should probably be suspect if we answer it in 5 minutes or less, unless it's a real easy question like, do we have an ordinance on this? Yes. Which I'll make a shout out also, we're now converting to MuniCode and our online publishing of our ordinances, and it's much more searchable now, much friendlier for people to search and find online. So I think you'll find that good. So thank you for that, Pat, but I encourage you to keep writing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, that's the end of our day.
Thank you for your
Thank
time
you
this
so much.
evening. I appreciate
Thank you so
it.
much. I do need a motion to adjourn, though. We have to adjourn.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Pat. Do I have a second? Second by Larson. We have to do roll call. And we don't? Okay. Do we, Ann? We just said that. Do we, because we just had that.
Here's your
conversation.
next note of parliamentary procedure. You don't need a motion and a second to adjourn a meeting. You can declare it adjourned.
Oh, we can. Okay.
But-
we never do.
I know, but you can.
Okay, it is adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
We've never done that.